Well, if there's one thing that we know about Nebraska fans, so we love the offseason, and fans love to let us know how much we love the offseason. And I think people like us to love the offseason because they continue to put us on lists and rankings. Now, the latest being Phil Steele, of course, coming out with his yearly magazine. And I don't know if it's nostalgia or tradition, but there's something I love about getting these magazines, especially the hardcover version, and just being able to sift through it like old times where you would have to, kind of look through and you can break down the team in print and not be able to just have everything you need at access of your fingertips. So I did want to give a little, shout out. I did purchase the magazine from Phil Steele. It's a great magazine. If you do yourself want to check it out, please go check it out because there's a lot of good stuff in here. And if you do like the breakdown that I do today, where I'm just going to go over some of the rankings that we're in and just kind of a brief quick little overview of those, and I can dive more molecularly in the details if you want me to in a later video. Just drop your comments, leave a like, let me know that you like this style of video. But without further ado, let's just get right into it. All right, so how I'm going to break this down for you is I have the individual unit rankings for Nebraska and where they stand on each unit rankings. And then I'm going to move over into a most improved ranking where Nebraska does make an appearance on there. Also, a couple of Phil Steele's poll rankings where he has one where it's a power rankings where he puts his aggregate data together and makes a top 40. And then there's also a preseason top poll that he does that's a little bit separate just based on opinion. So let's go ahead and start with the individual top units. And you'll see Nebraska makes an appearance on the quarterback units list, which you absolutely love to see. Nebraska comes in ranked 56th on this list. So Nebraska 56th at the quarterback position. Now let's move down to running back. Nebraska comes in at 50th at running back. Okay, so no write-ups on these little rankings right here. Wide receiver, Nebraska dropping in at 45th on the wide receiver rankings. Offensive line rankings, you might like this. Nebraska coming in at number 40 on the offensive line rankings. Moving on down, let's get to the defensive side of the ball and see where they got them. So defensive line, Nebraska comes in 5th. And I will say this is the top unit on the team. No surprise there. No spoilers there. Huskers allowed 93 rush yards per game, 3 yards per rush, 32 sacks last year, and return the key defensive line, including their dominating rush of Hutmacher and Ty Robinson. And of course, Coach Rule calls it the strength of top-notch D. We all call it the strength of this top-notch D. Now, let's see where the rest of it ranks. Linebackers. So Nebraska at linebacker come in at 19th. So another top 25 part of the defense there, another top 25 unit on the team. Let's move on down to defensive backs. Now, defensive backs, we know we have a good group of defensive backs, lack a little bit of depth, but even so, they're coming in here at number 30 on Phil Steele's rankings for top individual units. So Nebraska comes in at number 30 there, top 25 top 5 at defensive line, top 20 at linebacker, and top 30 at defensive backs, which should indicate that Nebraska should have a top 25 unit in Phil Steele's opinion going into the season. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move forward into the polls. Okay, so one thing about Phil Steele, his accuracy has been marketably excellent over time. I believe there's only one magazine that's close to his in terms of his accuracy in regards to the entirety of how he does his system. So now we're going to get into the most improved rankings, and then we'll get into the two other rankings. Finally, we'll end on the Big Ten rankings and where he thinks we may finish in the Big Ten. So 2024 most improved teams. All right, drum roll, please. Nebraska slides in at number 2. Number 2 on the most improved teams there, right behind Eastern Carolina. You can see Louisiana making it in, Indiana, Marshall, UCF, TCU, Colorado State. Is there any other Big Ten teams? We got Florida, Auburn, Cincinnati. No. So Nebraska and Indiana, the sole 2 Big Ten teams there on the most improved rankings. So again, Nebraska on another most improved ranking. You love to see it. Hopefully it comes to fruition so we can stop being the butt of everybody's jokes going into next offseason when we start to drink the Kool-Aid some more. Okay, so now I'm going to slide over into his 2024 power poll. Okay, so on this power poll, basically what he did is he put 9 of his prerequisite polls and data sources together. He has 9 individual polls, and he put those together and created this aggregate one. And it goes into detail here of how he makes it if you ever want to look into that. But Nebraska comes in ranked 36th there. Now, I'm going to go through Nebraska's opponents as well and show you where they stack up. And I'm going to create a record based on where Nebraska stacks up in comparison to their opponents. Just in that regard, if they rank ahead of them, of course, it's a win. Behind them, it's a loss. So Nebraska ranks 36th here. All right, so the opponents, UTEP, first off, 128th out of 134. Book it as a win. Nebraska 36th, Colorado 53rd. That's another win. Northern Iowa, probably not going to be on here. That's 3-0. Illinois 61st, Nebraska 36th, 4-0. Purdue 63rd, Nebraska 36th, 5-0. Rutgers 41st. This is my first for us on the projected schedule. Nebraska comes in ranked a little bit ahead of them at 36th. Rutgers very tight at 41st. Rutgers is going to have a sneaky good team this year. Nebraska 0-2 against Ethan Kaliakmanis, who's their quarterback. Say what you will about him. He's beat us twice. Indiana comes in at 51st. Nebraska 36th. There's another win there. And now the first loss comes to Ohio State. No surprise there. Ohio State coming in at number 2. They are obviously going to be a national championship contender and probably the favorite at some point to win it. UCLA comes in ranked 50th, which is one spot ahead of Indiana, just for comparison purposes. Nebraska 36th. There's a win. Now, here comes the tough stretch. UCLA 24th in that poll. Wisconsin 25th, and Iowa 18th to Nebraska 36th. Not too far off the mark, but again, they're a little bit ahead of us, which brings our record comparatively across, adding all those up, to 8-4, which again is exactly what I had our schedule predicted as. A little bit different wins and losses, but you kind of see the trend there with the 7-8 win range that people typically will put Nebraska in. A lot of things are indicating that's not very far-fetched as people may lead it to believe. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move over into the next poll, and this is really just kind of his preseason top 40, if you will. So sliding over here, you got Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Bama, Utah, Michigan, Miami, Iowa comes in at 11, Clemson, Florida State, Ole Miss, Oklahoma State. Now let's go ahead and get down into this half. Boise State, Missouri, LSU, Oklahoma, UTSA, SMU, Kansas State, Tennessee. There's USC there sliding in this poll. Iowa State, Arizona, NC State, Louisville, and Nebraska. And of course, he mentions the jump in wins in year 2 at Baylor, in year 2 at Temple. And of course, as we saw just a second ago, they're his number 2 most improved team. Okay. So that leaves us with one ranking left to get to, and that is the Big Ten rankings, because who doesn't like some conference rankings? Let's see where he stacks us up against the rest of the Big Ten. Okay. Now, coming in here, they got a preseason Big Ten list as well, and I'm going to get into some of that in another video. I'm going to get into more of the individual rankings. So, but y'all can check that out if you want right there. Now, where does Nebraska rank up in terms of the Big Ten? Steele's got us number 7th. We have Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan, Iowa, USC, and Nebraska coming in at 7. Not too shabby. He mentions 2021, of course, the best 3-9 team of all time. Don't let anybody take that away from us. Plus 56 in yards per game. And we're 1-8 in Big Ten play. So you love to see that. You love to hear about that again. In 2022, Scott Frost got fired after the Georgia Southern game. Interim head coach, 3-5 in Big Ten, minus 73 in terms of yards per game differential. Matt Rule, he says an A+ higher, close losses remained. We all know that. Nebraska had 5 net close losses, was 3-6 in the Big Ten, and it went to a minus 10 yards per game differential with that horrible offense. Okay, so an increase there, but this year 19 starters returned where they were, minus 17 in turnovers, and in the going up box for offensive yards per play. Again, another video I'll get into. They avoid Ohio State. No, we don't, Phil Steele. That was a typo. We don't avoid Ohio State. If we avoided all these teams, we'd be in great shape, but we don't. We got to play Ohio State, unfortunately, and should get to their first bowl since 2016. So you heard it from Phil Steele, not me. Okay, so he said it, but we're going to a bowl. And lastly, let me just come down here and I'll touch on these Big Ten unit rankings real quick, where he has us ranked across the board, but the rest of the Big Ten. Quarterback 10th, running back 9th, receiver 6th, offensive line 7th, D-line 3rd, linebacker 6th, defensive back 9, special teams 12th, not last, and Cha is 10. Cha. Not sure what that means. I'll get back to you on that. Had a blonde moment. Oh, I bet you it's change. So probably we're tied with Wisconsin for change. I don't know what change in regard to. Probably talking about last year. Let's go with Cha. So we're 10th in Cha. All right, let's just rock with that. But if you like I said, if you like this style of video, if you want me to break down a little bit more in detail this magazine and its contents and where Nebraska pops up and interesting things that I find, I'm going to be sifting through this magazine in detail. I'm going to be reading through it. I like to study each and every team. I like to study Nebraska's team. So if you want more of this, or even a schedule, me break down our opponents in a style of this, going by, kind of some of the stuff that I find in this magazine, let me know. Drop your comments, leave a like, sub if you haven't yet, and just let me know what you think, and I'll get those videos prepped up for you, because like I said, I love this magazine. I love reading this magazine. I love breaking it down, and I got a lot more of it coming up for y'all. So just let me know what you want specifically so I can make that happen, and I will see y'all next time. Peace.